it is time. First of all, happy Halloween. This is my scary mask. It is time for Blockchain and Booze. Yes, that moment in time where we gather the wheelers and dealers of the sphere and Asher Westrop Evans and have them answer questions as they try to stay sober. Ladies and gentlemen of the panel, how you doing? We're going to introduce you, as we always do, Eitan, Lavi, returning victim, co-founder and CTO at 2key.network. Hello to you. And I see that you are not messing around. You're going between margarita and whiskey. You have just become my favorite panelist. Or Lokay Cohen, sporting what seems to be vodka. Vice President at Bittax. Wonderful to have you. Thank God for Asher Westrop Evans, BLOCKTV senior correspondent and analyst, and a manly man who does drink whiskey. And of course, we can't do this without Alon Muroch. Help me pronounce your last name.
More.
More?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. CEO at blocks.io and sipping a very good margarita that seems to be kind of empty as we go into our, I think you need a bit more. I'm not seeing you smile enough. And we are starting with the biggest story of the week as of last weekend, so to speak, or we deemed it as such, and that would be China. China actually beginning to, well, not beginning, but I would argue completely owning the race. The cryptosphere went into overdrive over the last week in the wake of an extremely bullish position on blockchain technology uttered by Chinese President Xi Jinping. The embrace of blockchain by China sent ripples across the world, leading to wild speculations. Was that connected to that insane bullish spike that we saw in Bitcoin's price? Everyone in the sphere and their mother, one could argue, had an opinion about Xi Jinping's announcement about blockchain and then some, including Binance strongman CZ, with the following online remarks as of yesterday. Let's have a listen.
I guess a couple of months ago when I did the AMA, a lot of the questions were about USA. Understandably, this time I think quite a lot of the questions about China. So let me address that first. So China, I think most of you guys probably already seen in the news, is making some really big moves in the crypto sphere. So I think that's actually really good for our industry. A lot of questions are asking about, so is a central bank participating in crypto good or not? Again, my view is very simple. I think the more participation there are, the better. It's similar to when people say, hey, are stable coins really cryptocurrencies or not? That's not so much the question in my opinion. The question is really, do they increase the freedom of money? Do they help the money flow? So if they make it easier for people to use money or for people to come into cryptocurrency, then that's probably a good thing. So I am very much for cryptocurrencies, and I very much welcome more countries to participate in crypto. And China is doing a number of things. I think China is very pro-blockchain. In none of the releases, China says they're pro-Bitcoin. I think there's still the thinking of using blockchain without a cryptocurrency, or at least minimize the promotion of a cryptocurrency. I think there's the idea is to have one cryptocurrency, but I doubt that will work too well, to be honest. I don't think people can, I actually don't understand how you can have a blockchain without cryptocurrency. Without the incentives, without the network fees, the blockchains don't get a lot of adoption.
Okay. A few things. First of all, CZ's remarks, which are the freshest thing about this. Yes, Asher, actually, I'm loving your expression. Shoot, I want to hear
what do you mean he doesn't understand how you're going to have a blockchain without cryptocurrency? There are dozens of logistic blockchains out there. There are all sorts of blockchains that exist without cryptocurrencies. The technology doesn't necessarily have to require the particulars of a proof of work incentive that, say, Bitcoin has. There are other means of blockchain. I took umbrance with that coming from CZ, who has had questionable relationships with blockchain technology in the past in terms of where his knowledge really lies.
That's a gutsy thing to say. Well, first of all, yes, what do you guys think about, I agree with that, and there are many things that he said where you're like, okay, needless to say, it will be, it behooves Binance's strongman to see, and it is a good thing, but what do we think about the China major move into, that was a love song to blockchain in a very, very orchestrated national, important scene that it just spells, to the world, we want you to see this. What will this do for the sphere?
I think, first of all, we need to put things in perspective. I'm not sure that they've intended the kind of a ripple effect that we see in the industry. I don't think anyone outside the industry even cares about what they said. So I don't think it's a big announcement. It might be a big announcement for us because we are a teeny tiny drop in the sea, but So that's one thing. I think their definition of what is blockchain is very different than what we think is blockchain, and not entirely sure it goes towards more freedom. I'm not entirely sure you have blockchains
I'm
without a
actually going to
financial
contradict you,
incentive.
and
but,
that is like I do think that it wasn't picked up enough by mainstream media. I agree with you on that. I think that's a mistake, to be honest. Not because the fact that mainstream media didn't care doesn't make it less important.
no, I didn't say it's less important.
Okay.
Just think that the ripple effect we see inside the industry is much bigger than what they actually announced or what they actually intended to. And again, I think the definition of what they see as blockchain is very different than what we think is blockchain.
Entirely. But
and
it's
CZ
in the
made
hands of the users, you know. Okay.
Yeah, and I think CZ made the right distinction between talking about Bitcoin and talking about blockchain, or Bitcoin as a reference to all of the cryptocurrencies out there. So I think
But at the end of the day, I mean, would anybody here, because there was a lot of discussion online, argue that Bitcoin wasn't affected by that statement? I personally see a correlation between the spike that we saw on Saturday and that Chinese
definitely.
statement. Yeah.
I think that was a love song for Libra, actually. One day after Zuckerberg going on Congress and says, your actual war is with China and not with Libra.
And China's ahead of the game.
China are going to get there first. And then one day after that, China is saying, we are going there. Why? Why? Because they want Libra, because they don't want the United States government to have all the central. They want the dollar to be decentralized as much as they can. They want Libra to come out. So they are coming up with such a
Show of support, of
Exactly.
trust.
Hold on.
towards
So
what
you
they-
think this is a
Definitely.
15 layer chess going on right here, that they are promoting
Definitely.
their push for blockchain to get the US to go out and push ahead.
One
with
day
Libra.
after Zuckerberg saying,
But that's-
China will get there before you, please embrace Libra, then the Chinese are
But-
coming out and saying, we are going to embrace
So
But
wait,
that- but that's-
I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I'm with Ashu on this. Do you think that that's the idea behind the Chinese thinking?
Definitely, because otherwise, how do you explain? And then one day after that,
Either that or
they are
Zuckerberg
saying,
has great spies in China.
They're saying one day after that, they're saying, blockchain, not crypto. Relax, people. We didn't mean crypto. We mean.
Yet they
we
did
meant
pass their
blockchain.
first crypto law right after that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a package deal, and I was practicing martial arts for a long time. There's a golden rule: if you want to win, you must be the first to strike.
Right.
Yep.
And this marks the public announcement of the next arms race. And we've had a lot of time where JP Morgan CEO says Bitcoin is bad,
Right.
Bitcoin falls, then their desk buys it at the dip, right? But you look at the acts. This was the first public announcement of the greatest, you could say, community on earth going on.
The second
all
largest
in.
economy
But
in the
why
world.
But I'm
now?
saying about the
Why
community, not the
now?
economy, because Chinese are very good in communism. They have a lot of practice in it.
That they
And,
do.
and you know what blockchain means? It means everybody runs
Community.
the same piece of code. Now, when you are willing to conform and withdraw some of your liberties, then the community ripple effect of what in bacteria is called quorum sensing can give rise to a next order of magnitude in network intelligence. And this arms race is for the next quantum leap in economies. What we call today economies basically just means complexity of human networks. And there's going to be an arms race between the biggest nations on earth on this.
Right, but and that's where I'm going to sort of take a different tack to what Or was saying, because I don't necessarily think this is maybe it is. Maybe I'm not thinking to the next level of chess move. But to me, this seems to more like, Libra came out. Zuckerberg came out and said China's the issue. We've got to be scared of China, and they said, hell yeah, be scared of us, and we're making that first mover advantage. We're getting that first strike.
Yeah, but why? Why they?
Because
after
they
that?
want to be first.
First of all, we also have been hearing rumors and supposition that that national digital coin of China is about to be launched somewhere.
Right.
I mean, in the last 2 days, I read already at the beginning of 2020, but there are those who would argue it's about to happen already in the next 3 months. That said, I want to go back to the whole blockchain idea, and you're right in that respect. Though one of the first applications to be used on that Chinese blockchain is the Pledge of Allegiance to the big party on the block.
Yeah.
And where
That's the first step, because when you pledge allegiance to the thing, it goes again and again to the same thing. Why are bacteria colonies, which are all individualistic, why can they form the most adapt? most dynamic, most survivable networks known to exist because they all run the same code. They run distributed technology. Chinese know that. So allegiance is the first part of saying, I'm willing to run the same code. This is something that can give them immense strength as a nation, and they realize the strength of this. This is why they're going all in.
There is something really, and let me really simplify this, very creepy about this. I mean, can somebody...
Also, China is like the least decentralized thing on earth. Like
Of
literally,
course,
it's one party rules
I'm
everything.
with you, but I think, are we at the point where we really believe that decentralization is something achievable?
I just want to make,
it is.
just a moment, I want to make a small distinction. There's this very small group of people on earth that basically get to decide what code every Bitcoin node will run. Same for Ethereum. That does not mean that the effect of decentralization does not occur on Bitcoin. The effects of decentralization, the emergent phenomena and network complexity occurs because there is a multitude of individual entities willing to run the same code. The fact that there's a small group of people deciding what that code will be does not harm the effects of decentralization.
Yeah, but I think it's a completely different system, and also like if you want to search for a comparable kind of example, it's like, you know, when an official regulatory body in the US in the 1980s or whatever says internet is good, we will be the first adopters of internet. Who cares? I mean, how much traffic do websites that the government runs get?
But it's a different, I think when you see
I don't
it in
think
China,
so. I think it's at the end of the day, it's you know, where the water kind of flows the strongest, right? And government time and again show that it doesn't really know how to innovate and create new stuff. It knows how to regulate, but it doesn't really know how to create new stuff. And when you're talking about new stuff and innovation, it's by definition, you know, third parties and individuals and so on and so forth. And again, I don't think they're speaking the same language or intending the same thing we do.
They have known this for a long while. For example, they have been very entrained. You know, entrained means that you can kind of force the same wave on everybody. So they've done some mistakes. They've collectively let go of the alphabet, which is a far more efficient manner.
I actually want to stay with this moment, with this theme, because at the end of the day, when Xi Jinping came out saying that, all the reports and the little that we can quantify and verify from China, first of all, this was not, I don't think this was, okay, Zuckerberg said that, let's put let's fire out and put the first shot. I think this was well planned. I think they have been planning this for a while. I think that since 2014, they've had their little units of research about blockchain and digital currency, and this has just come about at the right timing for them to basically, say, okay, we're a minute away and this is becoming a national thing. And I don't think we in the West realize this.
But why don't you shut up and wait 2 months and have do you want to beat the race, or do you want to trigger United States to do something?
But that's exactly
you want to beat the race? Shut up and release your.
I personally think they're going to beat the race. I think
part of the race is
waving your wand
is mentality, and you're right, because when they come, when the U.S. is at its lowest, Congress just doesn't get it.
They don't
Zuckerberg is trying to understand them. Look, okay, just give me, of course it's a ludicrous claim. It says, like, give me a centralized control over your centralized control, over all other centralized controls, right? Like, give Libra access over the Fed, over all other national economies. So they, hell no. But he's trying to say, yeah, okay, but look, otherwise they're going to beat us. And this makes it so much, the tension between the two powers is really like karmatic. You see it out there. It is a full-blown arms race. You cannot.
But a governmental blockchain has nothing to gain. Right. All of the finances already are digital, already controlled by one party. There's nothing to gain in governmental blockchain. There's everything to gain in decentralized blockchain.
But there's to gain by not letting yourself lose.
You're right that when it's fully decentralized, as you envision,
not fully, 80% decentralized.
But let me tell you this: as I see it, even if you have a centralized intranet, like China wants to do, the matters of efficiency in internal orderings you can come about when you transition to a distributed, even though the citizens have nothing to do with the code running, but they're all willing to run the same code. Just look at bacteria. They have no say in it, but just because they're all running the same code, the network becomes more efficient.
I
even
promise
though
you
there's
there
just
will
one
be
person
no
dictating.
single citizen in China running code or having any influence on that network. It will be governmental bodies influencing the network, maybe some really, really big companies that are very close to the government. But again, they have nothing to gain from it because they have all the control anyway.
Yeah, but they don't
maybe
have
they
seed
I don't-
control.
Wait,
They don't have
wait,
the seed
wait.
control. They can
Alon,
risk
you're
not.
the first one to acknowledge that Chinese government has a lot to gain from blockchain, from currency on blockchain.
Why?
You are out of anywhere. Anybody here knows what does it mean to understand that you can see every transaction.
They can
Yeah.
see it
Everyone-
as well today.
No, I think
through the
no,
banking system.
Not the
infra-
cash system.
The intra-Chinese
There
network.
is no
There
cash in
is no
China,
cash.
guys.
Yeah,
There's
right.
a lot
There
of
is
there's
no
a lot of
cash.
places
But
that
the
you can get
intra-Chinese
cash.
network is very opaque. It's very manually driven. There's like a ton of people there. And it's right that formally the government has control, but technologically, it's not entrained on the same system. So I'm not under the illusion they're going to give anyone more personal freedom. But Chinese, as a centralized governing body of over 1 billion people, if it all turns, and there's millions of governing sub-bodies and sub-bodies and sub-bodies, using all, basically joining all on the same distributed ledger, even though no personal freedom maybe have gained, as a collective, their network intelligence will
gonna be
rise.
huge.
Can we also
I
point?
don't-
Can we
Yeah,
also
it's gonna
point
be
to the
huge.
fact? Can we also point to the fact that at the moment, and it is still obviously a relatively small market, but so many Chinese traders utilize Tether or other US dollar-backed stable coins as a mechanism for trading in cryptocurrencies. That in and of itself, while still, again, obviously a relatively small percentage of the market overall in China in terms of transactions, is a direct sign. If I'm a Chinese government official and I'm worried about losing control, I look at that and go, crap, these guys are effectively trading in the dollar. I've lost control of that segment of the economy. I don't need to lose control of that
I'm
segment,
gonna
and I
take it
can
back.
fully segment
Well,
the
again,
economy
it
and
really
make it an
depends on
instrument
how
even
do
further.
how do you define those things, because there's a major difference between USDT, USDC, and maybe DAI. USDT and USDC might be decentralized, quote unquote, but they're very much controlled by the traditional financial system. If there's any, if there's any issue, the U.S. government or any other governmental body can go into and say to Circle or any other of them, say, look, freeze that account, reduce those assets. And so it's not necessarily that they lose control in that sense. They do lose control in something like DAI. And so, I mean, of course, you can make it maybe get a bit more efficient. That's great. But if that is all what we imagine blockchain to be, and that's what we imagine that innovation to be, I think there's a very little to gain here.
It's not the end goal by far, but it's an incredible milestone. An incredible milestone. This is
It's
like
an-
an amazing.
I
moment.
would say that it is an incredible milestone for the technology, definitely, because if as long as you get more and more and bigger systems working on blockchain, that's definitely something we all want, as long as they actually share the data.
Do you ever
right,
wonder
and
why the
research.
Chinese can build a city in a day? It's
No,
because they have an
and-
internal mechanism that allows them to.
And that makes one wonder, putting aside the ideology behind, blockchain, if utilized by them, whether it's right or wrong, whichever way they, run their government, they have positioned themselves right now, if this indeed is a race, very far away, at the jump start, so to speak, from the rest of us. But I want to move forward because we have so much stuff to cover today, and this is still staying global, guys. If China has just, put out the first shot in that race, let's look at the rest of the globe and what's going on. And why people are ignoring it, we will not. Lebanon, Argentina, Chile, and Venezuela. It seems to be the age of revolutions around the world. Underreported, some will argue. We're seeing it. Working class citizens are taking to the streets to vent their anger against governments. In Lebanon, they came out because their WhatsApp was going to be taxed, and hold and behold, approximately 2.5 weeks later, the prime minister resigns. Okay. And in all these cases, we're seeing the word Bitcoin come up. What happened simultaneously, both in Venezuela and in Argentina, I believe, and in Lebanon, is the stopping citizens from being able to take out large sums of money from their countries. Mm-hmm. And there's a cap of approximately $200 as is happening right now in Lebanon. It raises the question, why is Bitcoin not becoming more of an answer at this point? Because it has this ground right now to flourish on, or is it just money for the rich? I'm really asking.
I think first of all, it's just important to stop and recognize this.
Because this would be a perfect ground.
This
for Bitcoin.
incredible moment in time where centralized nations governments, not really for the people, not really by the people, controlling centralized economies, not really for the people, not really by the people, coming to a point where the public suffers so much that they take to the streets, right? And it really, like in Lebanon, it was years of neglect. You couldn't get anything, but until there were widespread fires that the government just couldn't handle because the airplanes
fires
just
and
weren't.
taxes.
Yeah, because while the prime minister there is sending millions of dollars to his mistress, no one was funding the planes. So to get out the fires, so the public had to take out the fires with their bare hands, and then they go to the WhatsApp, and they tax it. They try to milk it for all they're worth. You see it across the world.
You and I will agree that was a worthwhile demonstration.
I'm just saying
we have to
this
remind people it's still the Middle East. Who knows how this demonstration, this will turn
but
out.
It's also
This may-
Argentina. The thing is
Exactly.
the ailments of centralized
Amen.
governance.
But why
are
isn't
seen.
Bitcoin then solving these people's
Because
problems?
Bitcoin isn't the solution. Bitcoin is the basis for the solution. Bitcoin is step number one. It doesn't touch the end user yet, right? I mean, the thing is with, for example, for Lebanese, we all wake up in the morning, we want to do some work we're good at, right? And then get some kind of means of exchange, store value, where we can then buy other things from people that do other stuff that they're good at. That's just what we want to do when we wake up in the morning. Bitcoin doesn't, as is, help us with that. The Lebanese is too inflated. The means of exchange between them but it can be a basis for this. And until there's a good basis for this, to have a local currency, this is basically what the new Venus project from Binance is kind of aiming towards, and Libra, that you can have kind of like, you use Bitcoin as a basis and you spring up local economies.
That's why everybody's so afraid of it. But Bitcoin is here right now. I'm asking for it. It's here right now.
Because you need to have the basic terms in order to use Bitcoin. The worldwide adoption cannot occur with something that you cannot just pick up the phone and buy. If you don't have electricity in your house, if internet is very expensive, so Bitcoin could be something that only rich people can use.
To be fair, in Venezuela they have been working on solutions to get around that. To get around, you can go certain periods without having electricity or internet and use of a mobile phone in a local OTC network.
But you have to have a strong community that will help each other to buy it.
There are two things that could solve it, and that is borderless internet, which means that you can just take it from the sky and you don't need centralized governance for that. People are working on that. And second,
I was going to say, who's going to allow that first? But okay,
Facebook has a very big initiative.
Yeah, ambitious, but that's what they should let
drop Libras on top of
financial
the
system
people
and
there.
over there.
Actually, there were some decentralized ISP initiatives, but basically, if you could just buy a simple phone that takes internet or a means to exchange, and second is a decentralized fiat to crypto. Because if you had that, the problem now with Bitcoin, for example, in Lebanon, is that a lot of the centralized exchanges aren't willing to exchange for the Lebanese.
It's not just in Lebanon, that's the thing.
So then what it comes down to
that's
is
the problem all around.
Infrastructure isn't in place. I mean, the answer to your fundamental question, why isn't Bitcoin solving it? Why isn't any other cryptocurrency solving a lot of the financial issues that these protesters are facing? The infrastructure simply isn't in place at the moment. You have to rely too much on isolated
but
communities.
by the way, in Argentina, it started. I mean, the former president said there that he's willing, he met with like Tim Draper, and he committed there that if the peso continues to underperform versus the Bitcoin, he will substitute the peso for the Bitcoin, and then they started just depleting the national assets of the peso. So they said,
and then he was one of the least popular presidents in Argentina's history, and he got kicked out in the last election. So I don't know if that was an act of desperation or a genuine belief in the innovative technology.
The reason that they now blocked buying Bitcoin is that regardless of what the president thought, the public thinks it's a good idea to get rid of pesos and get stock of Bitcoin. That's why they blocked it. So it's blocked out of fear. This is an example where Bitcoin can be a solution, but it's just being blocked out of fear.
I mean, I think fear is the leading word here, but it does lead us to something quite interesting, apropos what you guys said when it comes to no internet or no electricity, and there's just no infrastructure yet, or if there is infrastructure and you're living in a country with infrastructure, it's also incredibly insecure in some ways, one could argue. Look, there was some great reporting done by by the gentleman of BLOCKTV this week, and that leads us into one of the hottest trends in crypto scams in the last few months. Because when we're not forgetting about the poor of the world, but the rich are suffering as well. Unscrupulous actors found that they can easily take over other people's smartphones and accordingly Well, accordingly, their crypto holding is by simply replacing their SIM card to that of the victims. How easy is it to do? Your mind is about to be blown. It's ridiculously bloody easy. Let's take a look at the following report and just talk about it right after.
Hey, Yona, you heard about these SIM swap scams going around?
Yeah, man, it's like all over the news.
Hackers exploited a weakness with cell phones.
They essentially have your phone number and can impersonate you, through your phone.
Shapiro watched as his family's future disappeared right before his very eyes.
I know that they're stealing our life savings. That was probably the worst moment of my life.
Like you basically just call up their cell provider, give them like a really basic information. They give you their SIM card, and you could pretty much like steal all their bank details and crypto and everything.
You want to do it to Whitney?
Yeah.
How can I help you?
Hey man, how's it going?
Can I have your cell phone number so I can help you out today?
Yeah, 631.
Okay, what's the PIN number for the account?
I don't know if, for sure because it's such a temporary SIM card. I think it's like 1234.
And how can I help you about this account, man?
Yeah, so I'm such a doofus. I was actually trying to put in my micro SD into my phone, and the SIM card fell out and into the toilet. And so I just want to know, what do I got to do to actually get a new SIM card delivered to me or activated? Because the SIM card I was using is in the shitter. Could I send it to the address that I'm at right now?
Yes, we can set it up to any address that you will be available with.
And how much will this cost me?
Normally it will be $0 to actually get another one sent out to you. Give us a call, give us the phone number that you have, and we can actually make sure that SIM card is actually activated to that phone number.
And will I have to provide any other information besides my phone number?
No, you shouldn't.
And we got him, baby!
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him!
Other than being very well done, I find this to be one of the best reporting we've done here. Look, guys, this is ridiculous. And if we're talking about trust, okay? If we're talking about digitizing our financial being, existence, whatnot, this is T-Mobile in the United States. This is how easy this is.
Right, and I will say as well, I mean, obviously we had to redact it down for the report, but we pushed this guy on every which way possible. Will we need any other information? Do you need an address? Do we need the last 4 digits of the social security number? Nope. No, we'll happily switch that over for you. And from there, I mean, it's just outrageous what we could have done.
Legislators, right? I'm sorry, because you cannot establish trust if some mechanism is in the infrastructure that we were expected, where's my phone, to use our new banking on, are that breakable.
Well,
There's a simple solution for that.
Okay, what's the solution?
Go to ledger.com, go to
Right.
trezor.com,
I thought
go
it,
to
I
any
thought
of the
it's
hardware
a great
wallets.
promotion for Ledger.
Right, no, why not? No.
For cold storage.
Wholeheartedly, if they want to take us up, we'll add their sponsorship to the end
I'll
of it.
go even
This
one
is just
step,
a
one step closer to like the mobile experience is that you can actually use Ledger, I think even Trezor today on mobile. They have Bluetooth and everything is fine. And it costs like, what, $70, something
I
like
know,
that?
people,
So
we're talking
unless you
people
have
within the sphere.
69.9.
Right.
We're talking about people within the sphere. All of you is like, oh, of course, ledger.com.
Right.
Once again, let's talk about my mother.
But yeah, exactly. And if,
Yeah,
if I need to get a cold storage wallet in order to use crypto, haven't we just, I mean, we've all been talking about usability, helping the revolutions. While I'm in Lebanon protesting the collapse of my government, I'll just go out and order my ledger and make sure that no one's going to swap my
but again,
SIMs.
I mean, we need to understand, or at least try to figure out who is the main audience for this. And I'm not sure any of us that's sitting here is the actual target audience for blockchain or crypto.
I think the main audience is society. We want this mass adopted, don't we, folks?
I think that...
Do you remember the first phone? This is the first cell phone? It looked like a brick.
I remember.
Yeah, so I also remember. I mean, there was like one kid from school that his father was like, whatever, he had it. The thing that it starts as doesn't mean that it won't be usable. So we need to kind of have visionaries in the way. And yes, SIM cards are basically a proxy to a centralized information gatekeeper, which is, as other centralized information governance gatekeepers, they suck. They suck. Right. They end up abusing the public which they serve. They always end up abusing the public which they serve. This just goes to prove. And there's many other ways. I, for example, have deleted anything related to SIM and my phone number from multi-factor authentications because it's simply not secured.
Let's bring us back to the first point, which is government is not the future of blockchain because as you know, telecommunications are heavily regulated, and it seems that they're doing their job really, really good because it takes like 5 minutes to steal somebody's identity. And so,
By the way, I just want to emphasize, I wasn't saying that China is gonna win the thing, but I'm just saying that if you're going for the internet, and we all want the internet to be, right, the new internet, and we're seeing intranet, and we're seeing China going all in on intranet, then I'm saying it's a good thing because if they're going all in on intranet, that means probably the internet will come. So, of course, I agree with that.
Are we back to China?
Everything's relatable to China at this juncture.
Or as the President of the United States would say.
I think there are solutions out there. I think that the target audience is, for now, around 12 to 14 years old. It's not us. I think that in 10 years, there will be completely different infrastructure for holding your crypto assets.
But what is it? Why only
because
crypto? You also have a fiat application on your phone.
Exactly. You can access your banking services.
Why not do that? Crypto,
even my email account, I don't want that access.
Exactly.
I mean, there's so many things affiliated with it.
This is a very strong recommendation for everybody. You need multi-factor authentication on everything, your email, your everything, and get rid of your cell phone as a multi-party authentication, because there are other means, they're better.
Okay. But we are discussing mass adoption or the possibility of mass adoption because it's still a dream. And speaking of, maybe I think the glimpses of mass adoption, new backed application will allow people to buy coffee at Starbucks. I don't know why Starbucks, but we'll get into that later. Next year, and Alec Baldwin is leading a new commercial for eToro. Stick with me, I'm heading somewhere with this because, first of all, is this mass adoption? I'll explain, but it can only be appreciated after watching the Alec Baldwin spokesman for cryptos eToro commercial. Let's have a look.
Let me guess. You're too busy to watch this ad. Just like you were too busy to invest in Bitcoin or Ethereum. Oh, who's a Gucci boo-boo? Who's a Gucci boo-boo? You're a Gucci boo-boo. You think trading crypto is hard? How hard is it to open eToro, pick a coin, and hit trade? Now, maybe you're thinking, but I'm just a food blogger. I can't do this trading stuff on my own. Well, I got news for you, pal. With eToro's social trading, you don't have to. This is called a news feed. It's like your social media feed if your social media feed had things that matter. And if you've got any questions, just ask them. Observe. Can I pay my babysitter with Bitcoin? But sir, my brain can't handle more than 140 characters. Is there some way you could make things even easier for me? Why, yes, I can. With Copy Trader. Just find a top investor on eToro. How about someone with piercing blue eyes and a voice so husky it could pull a sled and hit copy? You. From now on, whenever they make a trade, you make the same trade automatically. Neato! I just made a trade automatically! I'm so proud of you, bestie. So join eToro and start trading the world's top markets. I got a plane to catch. Got it. eToro.
Quality advertising. I'm convinced.
Very good ad.
I want to meet the man who wrote that. But listen, chapeau to them. Significant steps towards mass adoption, folks, both backed Starbucks and eToro now with clearly a genius, I don't even know where to begin, or just PR stunts.
Well, Starbucks announced like few months ago that they are going into crypto, so it's not surprising that the Starbucks point, the backed point. I thought they are going for all the big players in the market, for the institutional.
Who's bigger than Starbucks?
One could argue that Starbucks is mass adoption.
I don't remember Starbucks are selling coffee to institutionals. So.
But can you?
This is arguably as big as China.
I was about to say. I mean, it's Starbucks. Come on, or you've been to the States. Like every single American, again, I would argue because the half calf decaf is not my first choice for coffee, but that is the
just
holy
like a
grail
flag
of-
on the moon.
You can
you
put
know?
alcohol in there. That's fine.
I know, but it's like the Starbucks is
It's a
almost-
flag on the moon,
I don't know,
right?
yeah.
Because we always say, oh, when will I be able to buy coffee with crypto?
Right.
That's like the sentence.
But
we all say
I
all
will
the
tell you when. 6 months ago, when they announced it.
But announcing and doing and like making it functional, making it easy. You know, the whole thing with Backed is they're releasing this consumer app. I assume the purpose of which is to make it more accessible, to be able to just simply establish your app and go buy your coffee with crypto. Maybe there were a few too many steps in between. Every single step you take out of that process, I think, is a win. Every step between hit button, get coffee is a win.
It's like adoption, product market fit, like to the max.
But why back? Aren't they
Yeah, it's
supposed to
weird.
be like the
futures wise?
God knows, maybe they just had enough funds and, and like
stock
a pension
exchange
spend to handle
wiped
it.
them.
Maybe
weird.
their first thing didn't work out as well,
Yeah.
and then they
Give it time. Give it time. It's
Actually,
picking
the
up.
first team
It's picking up.
working very
It's now,
well.
it's really picking
It's
up.
getting
It's as
there,
people told us,
and
patience.
We have a lot of hope for it to, to make a change. So
I
what's
think this
going
is an
on with
amazing.
this coffee now?
This is an amazing move. This is an amazing move.
I
You know why?
actually, I know.
You know,
It's
the public, they don't know what to do with decentralized finance because most public don't know anything about finance. You know, most public, they get up in the morning, they go to work, they get some money, and they
and they
spend
don't
on,
want to,
on shit
and they don't want to
need.
know enough.
So
and also don't want
if they can buy coffee with this, that's a big thing.
Okay.
So why Backed? I agree. Weird that they're spearheading this, but
That may be an historic enigma.
yeah.
Okay, we're going to jump straight to folks. You have been amazing. I don't know if everybody has enough liquor in their glasses. Nurse that vodka, why don't you? Okay, raise your glasses. 11 years to the Satoshi white paper. It is October 31st, 2019. And of course, on October 31st, 2008, it is when the Satoshi white paper came out. Question to all of you, was it all a hoax?
We're living in a matrix.
Yeah.
Everything was a hoax.
No, I'm saying October 31st. Okay, nobody laughed. 11 years on. What is your scariest Bitcoin story? Personal.
Scary.
It's Halloween. It's Halloween,
It's
folks.
Halloween,
You're
okay,
sitting in
sorry,
like an
I'm gonna
entire-
get into
Everything
Halloween
around you spells webs and boo. Yeah.
I don't know. I think the scariest thing about Bitcoin is just Bitcoin itself, the whole thing. You know, we never know how it came about, who's behind it. It's enormously big. Like I don't even take time to acknowledge that I am so small in terms of how this came about. It's like almost like godly. You know, like no one knows who this was. It's pretty scary.
I'm
When
sufficiently
you think
freaked
about
out
it,
right
it's
now.
pretty scary.
Yeah.
I think every Bitcoin transaction is pretty scary. Have you, like
When you
once you're
think
doing, this is the letters, they did not copy paste, and wait, let me see, 1 node, 2 nodes, wait, it's not there yet. I didn't pay enough fee,
Yeah.
so every transaction.
Seriously?
like
What do you
that.
mean Asher's going like, yes, of course.
Yeah, well, yeah.
What?
You just want to know that it's getting there.
One of my first ever crypto transactions was at this time. We won't date it and we won't say
This was
what.
in college, which
but I
approximately was like
decided
6
to I
months ago.
decided to buy. I was convinced not Bitcoin, XRP, and Ethereum. On this was back in Australia.
Okay.
I'm dealing in my home country with an exchange there. I had no idea what I was doing. I got it set up. I managed to buy some crypto. I forgot about it for a couple of years. Then I go back a few years later and try and get into my account. Oh, there's a 2-factor authentication on this account. I never set up the 2-factor authentication. Hell, I had been robbed. I was convinced I'd been robbed. It took me 6 weeks to get that account unlocked. I was sure I was going to come to it and find everything had been wiped out clean.
It was in.
It was all there. Gotta love Australia. Really well regulated. Even the crypto exchanges, even the early crypto exchanges are well regulated.
Still, it wasn't that much.
This
'cause
is
you're sitting
blockchain.
here.
You could have seen that it's all in.
I don't know. I was very new to the sphere. All right, I didn't know what I was doing. I was
non-custodianship is very
terrifying.
scary.
It's terrifying.
It's terrifying.
Then there was
Like,
those
step up,
who
you
would
know?
argue that with custody, with custodial ownership, it's also terrifying because they can just fucking die in India.
Trust
Where
on your
was it?
memory. You
I
know?
know, but there's
And
that.
Rodriguez
people
CX
that-
style.
We're so
That you
used to
are-
being, we're so used to being like these sheep, these small children being governed from above, And all of a sudden somebody came and said, "Oh, look, guys, you're welcome to grow
I think
up."
he needs more. Think he needs more margarita. Finally, voice of reason. Scary, scary Bitcoin story.
I don't know. I think the whole 2017 thing was pretty
Yeah,
scary.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
being emerged out of a cult
Absolutely.
everyone thinks you're just playing around and all of a sudden everyone wants to buy crypto. I think it was pretty scary, but I don't have any, I don't know. I mean,
you just wait for 2020.
2020, yeah. 2020, 2021, depends on.
I want to raise my glasses to you. You've been amazing. I'm sufficiently freaked out. This was Halloween's Blockchain on Booze with an amazing panel. We were BLOCKTV and we'll be right back.